Reelfoot's Bluff Ranch coverage. My name is Steven, and my co-host today is Michael DeLucas. Michael, how are you doing?
Good, Stephen. How are you?
Doing great. Michael, you were on the ground at Reelfoot, correct? You were one of the handlers for the tribes?
Yep, I was the handler for the Carlton, aka Red Tribe.
And this is important because we have with us the fifth place finisher, Sarah, who was one of those Carlton players. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm really excited to hear about your game because you were in the tribe that ran the show of the season, and really kind of came down to those last 7 or 8 Carltons. Like, the question was who's going to come out on top,
Yeah.
and I really thought you were so close to. It was. I think Ronnie ended up being such a key player that he was in your court.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise, but hey, blindsided, something you want on Survivor at least once. Check it off the list.
Well, I mean, you want to be blindsiding. You never want to be the blindsidee, correct?
I mean, yes, that's very true.
So I figured, much like the other podcast, we'd start things at the top. So how did you learn about Surviving Reelfoot?
So after I watched all Survivor, I watched it when it first came out, but I kind of rewatched it with my husband, and I decided to join like a ton of groups, and I got into orgs, and from then I saw a random application for Reelfoot, and I was like, I mean, this could be really fun. I'm gonna try that. Why not? So I applied.
And so what did you know about Surviving Reelfoot? Did you watch anything, or did you just kind of go into it cold?
I watched a little bit of season 3, but there wasn't all the episodes. So I didn't like go through like lives from past games, but I did look at like the different videos that were on YouTube, what I could find.
And you said you played orgs, but this was your first live reality game?
Yes.
So what was your strategy? Well, like, how did you prepare for this?
So there were so many things I wanted to do preparing for the game. I was really hoping to work out a lot more and be a lot stronger for the game. I actually ended up spraining my thumb. So I couldn't do anything for a couple of weeks, so kind of limited. So I couldn't like practice making fire. Couldn't really do much of that because of my thumb. But kind of coming in, I did play. I played an org right beforehand to kind of just keep strategy in my head, and then I played a mini as well right before.
And so what was your strategy coming in? Did you have any set strategy, or just kind of wing it as you go?
Well, so my strategy was to kind of try to be under the radar, not really have people know. The strategy usually is not to disclose what I do for a living. Being a therapist, I'm not sure how people perceive that with how I'm going to be with other people. So I usually try to, I mean, I said I was a receptionist. People didn't necessarily, when I kind of like disclosed to people, they were like, we had a feeling. So I wanted to make myself not really even terribly well spoken, so people wouldn't really suspect that I was smart. But I was told later on I didn't do a good job of that, but that's okay.
Michael, you knew her occupation, correct?
I did, yes.
Did you know she was lying about it to people, or did you?
Yes, I did, and I think it was a smart move for her. I think that coupled up with her building the rapport would have made her threat level a lot higher, and maybe she would have seemed less genuine in getting to know people, where people would have assumed, oh, this is what she does, this is how she gets into people's heads. So I think it was really smart of her to keep that to herself. Yeah.
So when you get to the game, you have that opening lunch with all the players there. What players were standing out to you? Were there any players like, I need to work with this person, I need to get this person out of the game as fast as possible? What's going through your head?
Well, one, I was extremely overwhelmed. There was a lot going on. There was just so much. I was just like sensory overloaded at that point. I think if anybody stuck out to me, Amanda definitely did, which ended up working out for me. And then Frank did. He seemed pretty chill while he was there. And then Todd, I mean, obviously had to stick out to me. I just saw him and I was like, holy crap, this guy is giant. Then I got to know him a little bit. He's like really, really nice. So I liked that. Sherry stuck out to me. I thought she was just very sweet. And then Skylar stuck out to me because her and I actually rode in together that morning. So her and I did talk a little bit on the ride. So she stuck out to me too, but there wasn't, I was so overloaded at the time. I was kind of observing, trying to observe. Like I know I was watching Lydia. I noticed that she had green in her hair, and then can't tell, but I have blue in my hair. So I was kind of like, oh, maybe we can connect on that. Um, so, but at that moment, oh man, I was so just overwhelmed by just there were so many people talking, and yeah, the moment.
Well, soon you get broken up into your tribe of 9, so that's a little less overwhelming.
Yes.
Like you've kind of thrown out a couple of their names already. Like did you immediately like gravitate towards Amanda, for instance, or what happened when you first get to your campsite?
I think I definitely did gravitate towards Amanda. After learning where Justin was from, we're both from the same area, so I kind of gravitated towards him as well. I honestly, it was interesting. I know at one point, our whole tribe, it just kind of, we all kind of flocked together at one point pretty easily. I know another person I felt like I gravitated towards was Kenny. Kenny's a very lovable, likable person, and he was just cool to be around, as well as Shane too. I really liked being around all of them.
Michael, what was your read on that the Carlson tribe as they first all come together at that campsite?
Well, specifically about Sarah, I was actually fortunate enough to drive to the game site with her. And when we picked her up, I was like, this chick's badass. Like, she's coming to play. She's coming to slay. People are going to gravitate towards her. She was a little reserved, which I really, really liked. And then I did watch her at the social, if you will. And she was definitely more of an observer and allowing people to approach her, which I thought was great as well, because there was people like Shane who were running around the place. And I was like, okay, this kid's going to get into some hot water, being viewed as a social threat right off the bat. So I really liked Sarah's approach to the social. When things broke up, I did really pin Sarah and Lydia together. I thought for sure these two powerful women are going to link up. They had a lot of similarities to them from what I could see. But I really like how Sarah kind of downplayed her survival skills. She said in a couple of interviews she's going to act like she doesn't know much about the wilderness. And I think that really did benefit her. And also about the, Amanda and Sarah alliance. What's funny is the first day, there was 2 other duos that were getting pinpointed. It was Mike and Lydia and Taylor and Kenny. Those were the first duos that were kind of out there. But nobody was seeing the Amanda and Sarah and Justin and Shane. So that's why I think that foursome kind of formulated and worked, because there was 2 other duos that were getting like the focus from the first day.
I would agree with that.
So that the following day, the first full day where you have reward challenges, your tribe ends up winning the first 2, losing the second 2. Is there anything about those challenges you want to talk about, or was there any strategy kind of formulating around the tribe?
Well, I think one of the best things that we did, and Justin definitely was the person who ran this, is he kind of, when we all were sitting down at our camp, he said, let's go over our weaknesses. Let's go over our strengths. And we all sat together and we talked about it. And we went over, all right, yeah, I'm not very good at, like, I think I said that strength wasn't really my strong suit, or necessarily like running. But I said that some puzzles are more my strength. And we just went around, and I think that helped us so much. And we were all very, and I bet Michael saw this, is we would all give ideas, and we would all listen to each other's ideas and then kind of build off those ideas. So it wasn't just one person leading everything. It really was a mixture of all of us. And I think, especially for the 2 first challenges, I think that's what saved us. With the SOS challenge, it really helped that we had Kenny, because Kenny did marching band. So he kind of knew how to keep count and make things work and make us look good from the air. So, but I think all of us just working together is what got us. The other 2, sumo challenge.
Strength is your specialty, you just said.
Yep. And I think the way we looked at it is we were such a team, whereas those other challenges were more of an individual basis. So it depended how you did as an individual versus how you did as a team. So I think if those were more team, we would have won those 2.
Now, by the end of that Sunday, are you starting to have an idea of who you'd want to vote out from that tribe, or is that just a conversation no one's having at this point?
We kind of had that that conversation, it was tough because the first night, I think I hope it's been said, like Lydia wasn't feeling well. She was sick. And I think she wasn't feeling well. And I think obviously when you don't feel well, you're not really into having that social piece. And I think that hurt her. So I know I definitely was like talking to somebody and saying, I mean, is there any other choice at this time? I mean, right now she's the only one that hasn't really integrated into the tribe. And it was kind of the obvious choice at that point.
Do you feel like you had any alliances kind of really cemented at that point, or things pretty free form and just we're all together?
I did. I definitely, with Amanda, her and I were not sleeping the first night. So when we were out, we kind of said, "Hey, you want to work together?" So we definitely clicked very well. A lot of people would get us confused, so we clicked very well. And then me and Justin, when we were walking back, I don't know, maybe this wasn't before Sunday. Some of this feels like a blur. When we were walking back, I kind of said, us people from Massachusetts should stick together, kind of thing. So I called us the massholes, and that was that. So I think those were the two, and then it was really like me, Shane, Amanda, and Justin. All of us kind of talked and felt comfortable with each other, and said that we would stick together.
So did you have like a one-on-one relationship developing with Shane at this point, or is it more of just like the altogether group alliance relationship with them?
I was, but it definitely wasn't as strong as it was with Amanda or Justin, for sure.
Michael, is there anything else about the reward challenge that you want to bring up?
Yeah, so at the sumo challenge, I think was a pivotal moment for Sarah, because before that, I think it was Mike who had kind of been onto her, or like kind of throwing her name out a little bit. But the grit and the determination that she showed in that sumo challenge really proved herself to be an asset to the team, and that kind of went away. So I think Sarah's first day was very interesting because she had this duo forming. She was on some people's tongues, but then her performance in the challenge really solidified that she deserves her spot here. And she was kind of able to do what she said her strategy was, which was to lay under the radar from there on out for the beginning portion of the game, at least. So I think she played it really well.
Yeah, that challenge. I mean, I think that was, not just game-wise, but personally, it was such a pivotal moment for me, because I think I've said in a couple different talks, I never consider myself a very strong person. So being able to come in there and kick some ass was pretty cool. And it felt really great. And it was definitely a huge confidence boost for me in that. But yeah.
So the following day, you begin your immunity challenges, and Carlton goes on a pretty, at least you win the first challenge and you win the second challenge, right? And that's when you learn about the whole prisoner of war twist and how it works with the surplus store. Did you have any thoughts there about those twists, and were you trying to play around them in any certain way?
I definitely didn't know what to expect with the prisoner of war. I could see it either going really great or really bad. I was kind of thinking that either way, it's almost like both tribes in a way lost in a way, because you had to lose somebody from your possible alliance to go somewhere else and not be in the know, and that's scary. But also you could get some information from the other tribes. So there was kind of a good and bad there. And then when it came to the surplus store, I knew that there had to be, advantages there or something, and just, I never got a chance to go.
I'm just curious, if you did get the chance to go, what would your approach have been? Because we've heard Shane say that if he had gone, he would have caused complete chaos. So what would Sarah's approach have been?
I mean, I would have tried to get advantages, and I would have tried to get them for me, not necessarily shared them. So I think that's what would have been my strategy if I got to go.
So what were your thoughts when Lydia and Mike went?
Definitely nervous. I think since Lydia was kind of the one on the chopping block at that time, I was definitely a little scared that she would get something or cause something to happen. I know when she came back, she talked about how Rutherford treated her. I don't know if that's been talked about how that actually played out, but they all felt bad afterward because they thought she was searching for an idol. And so when I would hear that, I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I also was like, why were they doing that to her? But then when Mike went, I wasn't really worried about Mike at that point. I knew he was a target, but I also thought that he was okay with me at that moment. So I wasn't too worried about him going.
So you finally get to the 30-minute challenge, and this is the one where you all finally lose, and it's time for tribal council. You've already talked about like Lydia wasn't feeling well on Sunday, and therefore she kind of set herself up as that easy unanimous boot. What happened during this round as you're strategizing, especially because Skylar is there with you as well?
I think that there wasn't a ton of strategizing. The strategizing already happened. People already kind of talked about and kind of already knew who they were voting for. I think that I know she was strategizing. I know she was trying to get me because she wanted to break me and Amanda up. So I think out of anybody, she was the one that saw that it was me and Amanda were actually really close. But it did stink that day for a reason. I got to know Lydia a little bit that day, and it really sucked because we learned we know a lot of the same people and we're friends with a lot of the same people and we're actually in the same group chat.
What group chat is that?
No, it was survival crap. It's icons. It's one of the orgs. I think Survivor Game Room. That's it. And she was one of the hosts of that. So I was in that group chat and we didn't even really realize who each other were. So that was really interesting. And I feel like if I knew that ahead of time, we had that conversation, I so would have wanted to work with Lydia.
What's interesting is you end up getting 2 votes out of this, right? Lydia cast her vote for you, and Skylar, from my talk to her yesterday, she felt really bad for Lydia and refused to vote for Lydia, so she just cast a vote for you as well. Were you expecting votes?
Not really, but I also try to go into the game by not being surprised by anything either. I just thought, oh, she just wants to throw out a vote. So I didn't really put too much thought into that.
Mm-hmm. Michael, what were your thoughts when you were observing all the chaos or maybe less chaos because for the Lydia boot that was happening this round?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear Sarah say that there wasn't much strategizing going on because I remember it quite differently. Being on the other side of the camera, there was 4 names out that first round. So there was Taylor, Kenny, Sarah, and Lydia. That we were talking about this prior to going on air, but that round was interesting because without seeing confessionals, I don't know what conversations are truths and which conversations are lies. So going into that tribal, I was completely blind on what could happen. But there definitely was a lot of scrambling going on. And I'm just, I really was pushing in my head for a Sarah-Lydia alliance, and it was just sad to me that they couldn't link up and come together prior to the vote. But I think everything kind of happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Do you remember why Kenny's or Taylor's name were out there at that point?
Yes, so that goes back to the duos, right? So day 1, there was Lydia and Mike's name floating out there as we were walking off together. I truly think, just based on following Lydia, that it was her more being sick than looking for idols, which was what the perception was back at camp. But a lot of people were pinning Taylor and Kenny together as well. I think that was after. Yes, it was after Taylor had hurt herself, so her name was out there as a possible liability. And then I think Kenny was he was brought up mostly pretty much his whole time in the game as a really good boost of morale at camp. But I don't think anybody was necessarily connecting with him. We heard Shane say that he told him after the game that he was his number 1. He wasn't communicating what his ideas and his plans were. So without knowing where someone's head's at, of course, you got to expect your name to be out there if you're not making these connections and telling people that you want to work with them. So I think that's where those names came from.
So Sarah, at the end of the first day, you've only voted out 1 person, Lydia. You've talked a bit about how you, Justin, and Amanda feel like a tight foursome. Where does that leave the other 4 people in the tribe? Or were they just like alliances of convenience? Were you trying to get close to them? Who seemed the most disposable to you?
I think out of those people, at the time, I think at that point, if there was another vote out, and it probably would have been Taylor just because of her injury, and I think that would have been the talk from my point of view. Mike, I definitely wanted to keep him around because of him being such a threat. So I wasn't really interested in getting rid of him, or because of challenges too, because he's good at challenges, and we wanted to keep winning. So I think that's important. And I think Kenny was an asset in that way too. I think Kenny was actually really good in challenges, and I think it was important to keep him around. But I also think, if it's not me, it's okay that he goes, kind of thing. So I would have been okay with any of them going.
Yeah, because once you're kind of like in the top 4 of 8, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't really feel nervous. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. And so you were kind of agnostic to who you'd want to really push for.
Pretty much.
So then the next morning is the dreaded swap, and the swap at first glance works out pretty nicely for you, right? You're now in Rutherford, but you're in a nice instant majority, right? You have Carlos and Skylar are the two minority, and you have Justin and Shane with you, which is great, and then Kenny and Mike. What were your thoughts when you're looking at your tribe?
Oh, I was so excited. I was like, oh hell yeah, I got a lot of my guys here. I'm like, this is gonna be cake. So it felt good in the moment, but then it was like the worst day. So or the day after, like I said before.
Well, so Skylar had cast a vote for you at that previous tribal council.
Yes.
How much of that was on your mind?
I mean, when we went to the next tribal, I voted for her and I told her, I'm like, I had to pay back the favor. So, but other than that, I knew she was probably going. So, we were very cordial. We talked about our sumo wrestling match. I really like Skylar. I think she's really great. So I really did like working with her. But at that moment, it wouldn't have made sense for me to flop.
What were your thoughts on Carlos?
Carlos, I really like Carlos. Him and I connected, and it really stunk because he was telling me about what he wanted to go to school for and his goals. And I had to tell him I'm a receptionist and not tell him what I actually do. So I know we could have really connected on that. So that sucked. But I really liked working with him in that moment. And I would have liked to work with him more, but it was hard to know where his head was at to really know if it was going to be okay working with him or not.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess the question: do you feel like the Rutherford tribe is cursed because the very first Mew challenge comes and you end up losing it, right? Is that something like you agree with, that the purple tribe is just a cursed tribe?
I do. I think digging up those bones was a mistake. Like I walk into that tribe and I just see, I'm like, oh, there's like bones there. They're like, oh yeah, they dug them up and put them there. I'm like, oh, okay. Wow.
And the Rutherford tribe is also like even farther away than the Carlton tribe, right?
Yeah, so that was something to get used to, walking like, wow, this is a good walk. And they're like, yeah, we're not even halfway there. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's gonna be great to walk back and forth 4, 5, 6 times a day.
So after you lose that first immunity challenge, talk me through that decision, Skylar versus Carlos. Were you agnostic, like whatever one we take out is fine, or were you pushing for one of them?
I could have gone either way with it, but I was trying to hear out the people that I was working with. I was listening to Justin, I was listening to Shane, I was trying to listen to everybody and kind of see what their point of view was. I felt like either way we would have been okay. But then when they brought up how, Skylar might have better connections over there, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And I definitely agreed with that. And I was like, I do think since kind of seeing how Carlos was, I was like, I think he's more of a challenge threat at that moment, but I think the social threats can sometimes be more dangerous. So I did think that it was the good decision to get Skylar at that moment.
Michael, what did you see? Because were you at this camp?
No, I was at Red, but
okay.
I mean, obviously I have an opinion.
Please share.
So I think they did the smart thing. Skylar coming over as the prisoner of war early and really integrating well with everyone from Red for the most part. So you have to assume that she's done that with her original purple, right? And I mean, I don't know how much at this point they knew where Carlos stood with original purple, but I would definitely have made the same decision and kept Carlos for maybe, I think they were pretty even challenge-wise. Skylar was not one to be slept on when it came to that. But I definitely think her social game put her in an unfortunate situation, and we've all been there where the swap catches sometimes, and I'm just happy because my Red children are still looking good on the other side for now.
Let's say Carlos does not end up being prisoner of war, doesn't receive a mutiny advantage, doesn't leave your tribe high and dry. Is he just doomed? Is he the next person out if you all had gone to another tribal council with him there?
Oh yeah, he totally would have been next. I think he knew that, and he was lucky. That was so lucky that he got that, especially that advantage. He was just so lucky. Even though that advantage can put such a target on your back, I don't think it did necessarily this time, but it was definitely a little heartbreaking.
So what were your thoughts when you're drawing rocks to see who's the prisoner of war and he's the one that's chosen, and then did he even tell you all what advantage he got when he came back?
Well, the thoughts were how did that happen? Like, probability says that shouldn't happen. And then he did tell us about it. He came back. He said, "Do you guys want the good news or the bad news?" And we're like, bad news. He's like, "Are you sure?" And then he's like, "I'm going to give you the good news." And he said how he that it wasn't going to be one of us that was going home at that tribal. So like we were happy about that because since they were down, we were really worried about that. And then he was like, "And I got this advantage, and it's mutiny, and I'm going to use it."
So there's no surprise with him jumping ship.
No.
So as soon as that shoe drops, do you all scramble at all, or you're just kind of like, well, like, we'll figure it out when we get there?
Well, when we heard that, we didn't even really talk about it that much. They may have talked about it, and I think we did talk about it. We said that if we had to go, it would have probably been Kenny, just for the reason of what was said before. He wasn't really talking game with a lot of people. But we also went in being like, we can win this. If it's team related, we can win this kind of a mentality.
Mm-hmm. Well, next challenge comes. As expected, Carlos jumps ship. It's just you five, and unfortunately, things don't work out for you. You end up losing the challenge, and you're like, okay, we had such a nice majority, but now it's only the majority. Like, who's the minority? And of course, you talked a little bit about Kenny. Was there any scrambling or anything like that, or I think Kenny ended up casting his vote for Mike, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all kind of knew what we wanted to do. There wasn't a lot of we actually didn't have time to scramble. We actually went into the grass.
Oh, that's right.
We all went into the grass and cried. That's legitimately what happened. I've never cried so much in my life. And we kind of all had the idea, and I don't remember who I looked at, but I looked at someone. I'm like, it's Kenny, right? It was probably Justin, just to make sure that the plan was still the plan.
So what made this such an emotional tribal council for your tribe?
I think that we all became very close, and especially in those that first weekend, we were just so close. We really were like a little family, and it was that we actually had to finally break up the family, and I think that's what was hard about it. And it's just like this high that we were on. We were all on this big high, and it just got brought down. And after, we had the prisoner of war didn't work out necessarily the way we wanted to. Carlos mutinies. It was just a couple things on top of each other, on top of having to now break the family up.
Mm-hmm.
It was great TV. Gotta say that. It was great. I mean, one thing I will say is Reelfoot this season was blessed by the Survivor gods, because the things and the nuances that happened throughout the game, you couldn't have even made up if you wanted to. So Carlos mutinying, and I know it's been mentioned, but the fact that Todd passed on the mutiny the round before, allowing Carlos to take it, was a huge game changer, right? Because if Todd gets that, who knows what happens? So thank you, Survivor gods.
Naomi's recounting her favorite moment of you being mad and vocal after the Amanda vote, and we'll definitely get into that later, because that was a fun moment. Well, not for you, but to watch.
I mean,
so what was going on? So you vote out you vote out Kenny. It's just the four of you. It's the next immunity challenge. Remember, this was the block stacking one, right? They have the hold, and things don't work out for you. Once again, you're going back to tribal council, but at least you can strategize this time. You're gonna have all night to strategize too. What luck! Talk me through that experience. It sounds like it was also a very emotional, difficult time.
Yeah, I think it was better because we had the time to process, whereas the other one we were just like, all right, you guys are gonna go tribal now. It's like, oh, cool. So I think that helped. It was pretty emotional. Me, Shane, and Justin all agreed that Mike would be the better option. It was between me and Mike, and I would try to say to them, like, hey, he's a huge threat. You have somebody who's loyal with you. If you take me with you, I'm not going to be that much of an immunity threat. You guys can have better shots at winning if you take me, kind of thing. And then some of the moments don't get captured on camera. So Mike was really upset. He was, pacing around. He was really upset. I mean, obviously, like, I get it. I would be upset too. So there's one moment where he walked down the path and I decided to follow him. Like, Shane wanted to come. I said, no, just let me go. And me and Mike had a really great conversation. It was actually beautiful. It was under the stars. It was very nice. And we just chatted, and he was just really down about it. And, I didn't tell him that I was voting him necessarily, but I kind of said, hey, like, no matter what happens, like, I respect your game so much. And I think that you had a great game. Later on, after the whole thing happened, he pretty much said that he would have voted me possibly if I didn't have that conversation with him.
Wow.
So,
Okay, so that was very good timing on your end.
yeah, I think so.
In that moment, did you guys like discuss another plan possibly? If it was you and him on the chopping block, did you say, hey, why are we looking at Shane and Justin at this point?
That's pretty much the conversation that Mike was having with me. He was pretty much saying he was warning me about Justin. He flat out was warning me about Justin, telling me how smart Justin was. He's like, Justin's smarter than all of us here, and Justin's going to, do well. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. To Mike, because to me, in my head at that moment, Mike is the biggest threat, hands down. So I'm not really thinking about those two at that moment. But he was trying to push Justin a little bit.
Something I want to ask is like, because you're working very tightly with Shane and Justin at this point, and it seems like you have a very good one-on-one relationship with Justin. Had that relationship with Shane been developing through the Swap Tribe?
So not a little bit through the Swap Tribe. Yeah, there was a point. I don't remember exactly when it was. Oh, my cat's going to join me, just so you know.
Excellent.
So me and Shane did get a little closer, and, Shane and I did talk about Final 2 at one point. But at one point I just told him, I'm like, it's because you think you can beat me. So that was, but yeah, so it did develop a little bit more and having more of a relationship.
And so tribal council happens. This is also still a very emotional tribal council for everyone involved. Taylor is there. And what had you been talking to Taylor ahead of time? Did you know what did you think? Did she seem fine with voting Mike?
She did. I mean, she was just upset, obviously, to vote anybody. I mean, at this point, without knowledge of anything, she was upset to vote any one of us. She didn't really want that to happen, but she understood. We all pulled her aside. I remember pulling her aside. I think I pulled her aside first and just was talking to her about it. I'm like, I think it's Mike. And she was okay with it, but she's like, are you sure? It's like, there's no one else. And I'm like, no, I think that's what it is. I think she would be everyone. So yeah, so we all talked to Taylor. It was interesting. I was happy Taylor was there because I wanted somebody to be there to explain what happened at the other tribal. So like that's what I was really excited for. I just wanted to know what happened at that wild tribal with Frank getting voted out.
So you cast your vote for Mike. Everyone cast their vote for Mike, and Mike ends up playing an idol. And which I remember the drama was that what were your thoughts when you see him take that idol out?
One, I was like, wow, he really hid that thing. And then the other part of me was like, holy shit. Like, how did he, what? I was so blown away because he was so upset. So in my head, I'm like, this guy's a good actor. Like he had all of us fooled. So in my head, I think, wow, he's even more of a threat than I thought he was in that time after seeing that happen. Because I thought he was just acting, being upset that whole time.
And what percent chance, your entire alliance has just voted for Mike. What percent chance you think that vote was coming your way?
I actually saw that idol come out and I was like, it's me. So I was like mentally preparing to be voted out. And I was just like, God, not even jury.
Is there ever a world where if you could go back, just you cast your vote for someone else, you cast your vote for Shane or something as a precaution for that?
I don't think I would have changed that because I knew that if I did that, that would have put a target on my back and I wouldn't have gone where I was. I think I would have been voted out if I did that.
But your conversation with Mike worked. He votes out Justin of all people. Mm-hmm.
Which I wasn't surprised that he chose Justin just because he was talking Justin up before. So it didn't shock me.
Michael, on your end, when you see Carlos mutiny away and leaving just an original Carlton 5 on that Rutherford 2.0, what were your kind of predictions for the voting order? Were you correct?
The voting order on their side, or
yeah.
What would have?
You're watching your original Carlton 5 on the other tribe.
Yes. So I first off, it took them forever to find this gosh darn idol that I hid. So that was very fun to watch. But I did get notification that Taylor found it somewhere in the night. And then the odds of her getting picked to be prisoner of war, again, thank you, Survivor Gods. I did not see Justin going home at that point. I honestly thought that if that was the move, that Sarah would have went. I would have thought that Mike would have wanted to keep Justin and Shane as meat shields or whatever you want to call it, just to protect himself a little bit going further, knowing that he's pulling off this big move, right? So I would have predicted actually Sarah going home at that vote, honestly.
So this is really just a really cool testament to your gameplay that you survived this round without getting idled out. And Mike chooses to idle out Justin, who it sounds like he was pretty close with.
Yeah, I think the way he explained it after we went right back to camp, really awkward at first. And he kind of just said that Justin wasn't really giving him a lot. He didn't like the way that Justin was responding to him. And that was one of the things he felt like me and Shane were being a lot more genuine with him. And he appreciated that.
But thankfully, you're now at the merge, and you learn about the prisoner wardrobe. You learn about the missing in action twist, and 2 players are coming back in the game. You're looking at this field of a lot of Rutherford players and a couple of Carleton players. What 2 players did you want to see come back in the game?
I wanted Justin and Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would have been good, but it was a little scary having Lydia come back in because is also another thing. I never got the feeling that she wanted to work with me either. I didn't feel like she really wanted to work with the women of our tribe. So I didn't feel like even if I couldn't trust her, I just got that vibe. So I just automatically put that wall up, which probably was, a mistake on my part, but that's the vibe I got. So I was a little nervous about her coming back in. So
talk me through this merge, right? You somehow got 8 of the 9 Carletons there. You have 4 Rutherfords. How did you think you were going to get to endgame? Like, who were the players you're like, I need to bring these people with me? Like, I want them to end with me.
Well, at that time, it was still, I wanted that 4. I liked Amanda, me, Shane, and Justin to get further. That's kind of what my hope was. But I also was toying with like different ideas of different people. Like if Kenny got back in, I probably would have wanted Kenny. And I was thinking about other options of, would I want to work with Ronnie more? But Ronnie wasn't talking to me a ton, so I wasn't sure about that. But I knew that those 3 people would be loyal to me. So I think that's kind of what drove. I'm usually a loyal game person, so when I feel that loyalty, I feel that I have to stick with it.
Where were you on Mike and Taylor at this point?
Well, Taylor, I was like scared of kind of because she just kept winning things and doing well in the merge despite being broken. So she definitely made me nervous. And then Mike, I knew he was always going to have a target on his back. So in a way, I wasn't terribly worried about him, but I also knew that he'd be sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
As well.
Were you looking for the idol at all at this merge site?
I looked for the idol a lot, and apparently I was not terribly far at one point, and that made me sad. But I tried, but I actually knew very early on that Justin got it. Gotcha. He told me pretty quickly that he got the idol and where he found it.
Michael, do you have any questions about this opening merge for Sarah?
No, from a viewer perspective, like you can say that it's predictable, it's boring, but when you're in the game and you have these numbers, why give it up? Like, it just doesn't make logical sense for the beginning portion of the merge. We'll get deeper in where I think Sarah's a classic case of when do you make the move and at what time? You know what I mean? There has to be a move made. It's just when is the timing and do you pass that window, which we'll get into. But I think for the beginning portion of the merge, they played it right. Mike going home was unexpected. Actually, talk about the vote split between Lydia and Todd, because if you throw another vote on Sherry, if you do Sherry and Todd for that first vote, if you throw the 4 votes on Sherry and the 3 votes on Todd, you flush an idol and Mike stays in the game. So was it just boys vote this way and girls vote that way?
That's what it was. And me and Amanda kind of kept saying, like, I don't think they're with us. I think we need to change the vote. We actually thought about me and Amanda were like, why don't we just put all the votes on Lydia? They wouldn't expect that. And Mike was very like, nope, they're with us. And he kind of like wanted to stick with that vote so bad. And we were just like, I don't like, there's no way. Why would they be with us? Why?
so backing up a bit, At the merge, why Carlos? Like how did that evolve?
With Carlos, it seemed like he was just kind of all over the place. He's very wishy-washy. He was kind of off to himself, kind of going and just kind of weaving around. So it was kind of didn't really know where his head was fully. So it was just nerve-wracking with him around. And I think people mentioned that he was kind of a wild card, and no, please don't say that. So yeah, but I felt like he was like a wild card, maybe a little nervous. Wasn't sure about him.
And Lydia and Chris vote with you on that one, which is why Mike thought they were with you for the next vote, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
And so in your ideal world, you would have all just piled in on Lydia and Todd would have misplayed his idol and life would have been good.
Yeah, I would have really liked that, but people didn't want to listen to me. They didn't want to listen to me and Amanda.
With Mike being gone, did that change any of your plans?
Not really, no. I think it was a little nerve-wracking, like, oh, it's kind of another stab. So I think that part was hard, but besides that, I don't think it changed much.
If you could have picked any one of your original Carlson to be idled out, that would have helped your game the most, who would it have been?
I think looking back, or do you want to know what I would have thought?
Both, at the time and then looking back in Vision 2020.
At the time, any from the Carlton, I think at that point I wouldn't have minded if it was either probably Taylor, to be honest. At the time, I probably would have wanted it to be Taylor, just because I knew she was a really big threat in the game. Looking back now, I think Shane would have been better for my game.
So Mike goes out. The split vote is boiled, but like from there on out, you proceed to kind of 1, 2, 3, right? Because they don't have any idols because Justin's sitting on an idol. They don't have enough. Really, they don't even have enough advantages to really kind of sway the votes. Mm-hmm. Talk me through this because like if the goal was like there's a point to make a move, was that anytime here?
So I guess it could have been. I've definitely thought about that. I know Todd talked about like that big 7, mm-hmm. And I would see it form. It would be on like the path, and I just sit there. And at one point, I was like, I should just like go up there and just like make them uncomfortable. But I'm like, nah, put a target on my back. I don't want to do that right now. I don't know. Todd like tried to talk to me, but I didn't feel like. I don't know. I didn't feel like I could trust it. I guess I just had a gut feeling. I'm like, okay, so if I flip now, where does that leave me next time? Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer that just because you can make a move doesn't mean you have to make a move, because sometimes making those moves don't get you further. Mm-hmm. And I know, but then there's like that double-edged sword of then sometimes not making the move doesn't get you a win in the end. So it's kind of this weird spot to be in. But I don't know, at that moment, I really trust the people that I was with. So I didn't feel like I had to necessarily.
So you didn't like talk to Justin or talk to Amanda saying, hey, like hypothetically, would you be interested in doing any sort of flipping?
No. Amanda and I kind of like toyed with it a little bit, but
mm-hmm.
It was kind of just talk. It wasn't anything.
So did you have any sort of, I guess, so it sounds like you didn't have much of a working relationship with the Rutherford minority of Chris, Sherry, and Todd at that point then?
Not really, no. Especially when I saw that group, I'm kind of like, they have no interest in working with me.
Yeah. And because I get the sense that they were heavily courting Lydia and Justin and Taylor, and I guess for some reason they must have saw you too entrenched in Carlton to ever give them a time of day.
I know they didn't try. I mean, Todd kind of said like, oh, if you're willing to make a move, like, and kind of would say something to me. I remember actually when he was prisoner of war. I know it's going back a little bit. I remember he sat me there and he was like, you know, how much do you trust these guys? Like, they're probably going to try to get you. And I'm just like, I'm just sitting here babysitting. So making sure the 3 of you don't have some sort of plan. But
yeah. Michael, do you have any thoughts on these 3 votes for the Sherry, Chris, and Todd votes?
Yes. I mean, going back to the Carlos vote, I think originally the plan was it was going to be Sherry, but Sherry got up and left the tribal council, yes, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Getting rid of Carlos for Sarah's game, I don't think was the best decision because Carlos had no relationships on either side. So trying to get him to a point where he needs you and you can utilize him to make that big move would have been a little bit smarter. Getting rid of Todd earlier, I know he had an idol, but there could have been ways to finagle that, would have allowed Sherry to be more inclined to come over to Amanda, because Amanda and Sherry had a pretty good relationship on New Carlton, right? And you're linked with Amanda, so now via Amanda, you can pick up Sherry. So I think those votes again, where the timing needed to be right, and I think Sarah just waited 1 or 2 rounds too late to actually make a game-winning move and catapult her from 4 or 5, which she ended up into 1 or 2. So those votes were very crucial to Sarah's game. But when you know better, you do better. Like she said, in that moment, she felt really good with her 4, and you can't blame them.
Mm-hmm.
Justin and Shane were doing a really good job of making each of the girls feel like they were the third, because Sarah said multiple times she doesn't want to go to the end with Amanda because they're too similar. So as much as she trusted her the most, she wasn't in her end game plans at that point. So hearing from Justin and Shane, you're my number 3, is exactly what Sarah wants to hear at that point. So, in hindsight, did you miss the opportunity? Yes. But in the moment, did you do what you felt was right? Yes.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I think there's definitely times that I could have utilized some of those people, but it's also like I said, it's like that fear of like, I make a move now, is it just going to get me voted out next? So it's tough, and I'm happy to learn from this game to take to the next game, because this is definitely not going to be my last live game.
We love that.
At what point was Amanda no longer in your endgame plans? What point did you say I can't go with her?
Honestly, it was very early because I realized how similar her and I are. And then when people would be like, call me Amanda, I was like, I can't, because people are not going to be able to separate our game. I made the mistake in another game that I played online, obviously. And people would be like, how do I separate your game from their game? And it was another woman. And so that was hard. And it was hard to do so because sometimes people don't always respect the team thing, and how sometimes you make moves together, and sometimes that's what it is, and it's hard to explain that at the end.
So like, let's say hypothetically you do try to make a move like at this point, and let's say Amanda does it with you, right? So you flip with her, like what would have been an ideal outcome? Is it again trying to vote out Shane, the make you Justin's number 2?
Well, I actually wanted to get Shane out, and that's the reason I was voted out, because I tried pushing Shane's name to Justin. And that's what got me voted out, pretty much. But I wanted to get Shane out because I knew him, like, he is so good at talking to people, his big blue eyes, looking into your soul, making you feel good. And so that was definitely nerve-wracking. But not at that point, I didn't. But hindsight, yeah, I think I should have totally made a move there, and I think I should have harnessed that and just taken the risk and seen what happened and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, I could relate to Sarah because when you're out there, yes, you go out there to want to win, right? But you're also there for the experience. So you also, some part of you wants to make it as far as you can, even if you don't win. So it's like, do I make this big, bold, flashy move and I'm out in 14th place and I've only been out here for 2 days? Or do I just kind of like go with the flow and I can get to 4th place? So I'm really excited to see what Sarah does next, because I think she learned a lot from this experience. And I really think she's going to be pretty badass next time, to be honest.
I'm already excited. I've already talked to my husband about ideas and things. So I'm excited for my next game. And yeah, I'm definitely really pumped for it.
Random question: would your husband ever play a blood versus water game with you?
I'm already telling him that he should apply to this. So he's played an org once. He's only done one.
It's still more than a lot of people.
But I would love to play blood versus water with him. Wow, that was a mouthful.
So when you get to the final 7, and congratulations, Rutherford's gone. It's only Carlton left. It's your alliance of 4 plus Ronnie. Plus Lydia, plus Taylor. In your ideal world, what would the boot order have looked like from there?
Well, so on top of having that kind of 4, me, Amanda, and Taylor kind of made a girls alliance as well. I wanted her to feel really comfortable so that she wasn't worried about getting voted off, so that if she did get anything, she wouldn't play it. And I think that worked for a while until, Amanda went. Then it didn't work anymore.
How real was that alliance? Was that simply just, like you said, to keep Taylor like happy, or
the alliance?
Yeah, that three girls alliance.
Yeah, it definitely was. Me and Amanda talked about that, and how if we kind of made sure Amanda felt comfortable with having a 3 with us and making her feel very safe, that she wouldn't get too worried and make too many moves, which I I don't know. It would be hard. I never actually asked her how safe she felt for that, so I don't know for sure how she felt.
Mm-hmm.
But she named it.
What'd you name it?
The Kingsky Angels. Kingsky's Angels.
Nice.
They had one blonde, one brunette, and one redhead, so I loved it. I was living for it. I do have a question about this round, because at this point of the game, you have to know that Ronnie is loyal to the boys, right? You have to, just based on how he interacted with you and Amanda, you have to know that he's not a number in your corner. So at Final 7, where Lydia has nowhere to go, and you have this potential 3-girl alliance, the first time that Reelfoot has ever had a majority of women in a tribe over the men, why not throw that bone out there? At least say, like, come with us, the 4 women, and we can make something happen. Let's get these girls to the end.
I think looking back, I mean, at the time, like, I just didn't think Lydia ever wanted to work with me. I really just like had that, and that was my fault for having put that wall up of like, I don't see her wanting to work with women. I'm just going to put that wall up. And that was definitely a mistake, because looking back, actually, when I was like on the plane the whole day back, I just thought about, I'm like, why didn't I do that? That would have been awesome if we made that happen. Like, why didn't I think of that in the moment? I was just, Justin and Shane did such a good job of making me feel so freaking comfy. Mm-hmm. They really did. They really did. And when you're tired and you're hungry, I was so tired that I was like delirious. Like, I was really suffering from sleep deprivation, and I wasn't thinking straight. So I'm just like, oh, these guys, like, they're going to protect me, kind of thing. And it'll be all fine. And, definitely should have.
So Lydia goes, and then at the next vote, you end up casting your vote for Ronnie along with Amanda.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I did.
and so so was Ronnie your pitch, or was that brought to you by Justin and Shane?
I think for me, I felt like it was just the next logical choice. So I thought everyone was going to vote Ronnie, but I was wrong.
Because at this point, Ronnie has talked a lot about how he's not feeling well. I think he's referencing falling on a sword at some point.
Yeah.
Does that probably led you to think that?
Yeah, well, he kept saying that, and he kept like telling, like, he would pull, like, he'd be on his tree, and then he'd kind of like pull, like, hey, just so you know, like, you can tell him it's me. I'm willing to like lay on the sword, and he would say that a lot. And it was like, okay, Ronnie, like, but it was also nerve wracking to sometimes tell him the plan, because at one point he told Sherry, and that's why she used her advantage, but. So we usually, at least from like me and Amanda, I wouldn't try to tell Ronnie the plan until like we were closer to tribal. But he already knew the plan, apparently.
Michael, do you have any thoughts on this vote?
So Final 6. Wow.
Yeah, Final 6.
Yes, I do. Again, at this point, I'm hoping that the 3 women band together. Let's go to Rocks. Let's take a shot. Let's see what happens. I think at this point, everyone's so scared of Taylor. But rightfully so. Taylor is an icon and one of my good friends, so I'm not saying it. But I feel like there are arguments to beat Taylor in the end. Like, if you're Sarah and Amanda, like, we scooped her up. We helped her get here. She was whatever. There's an argument there. And knowing that you don't have Ronnie, I don't know. I just saw it coming. I don't know how they didn't. But again, testament to the boys' games of how well they played the girls. And they kept them feeling really, really good. That was probably the hardest vote to watch. Because it was a true blindside, and came out of left field. But smart play for the boys right now, because now they have the majority with Ronnie. Ronnie's going to be blindly loyal to them. They don't know which one he's going to pick or which one he's truly loyal to at this point. But I think smart play on the boys to cut one of the girls. Now, are we going to talk about what happened after that vote?
No, let's get back to Natalie's comment. Sarah, let's talk about what happens after this vote when you just watch one of your tight allies. You're not bringing him in then, but she was a pretty good ally. And this is the first, second blindside if you count Mike playing the idol of the season for you.
Yeah. So I was really just mad that I got left out of the vote. I was so mad that they just didn't tell me, because that's happened to me before, and I just I got so mad, as you saw. So what happened is I marched back to camp really fast. I actually was with Michael, and I was just like, I was just so angry, and he was doing confessional along the way. Or I actually said, "You want to do a confessional?" I go,
Yeah,
"Right
she's
today."
like, you might want to film this. I was like, hold up, pause, let me get the camera rolling.
Marched back to camp, and I was so mad, and I knew they were taking their time coming back, and so yeah, I got my chair and I just sat at the top of the trail and waited for them to explain to me.
And so what did they tell you?
They kind of told me like, we felt you were too close to Amanda, and that you would have maybe told her, or maybe you wouldn't have wanted to vote that way because we kind of brought it up and you said you won it. And it was kind of more that I said, maybe it's not the right time right now, is kind of what I was saying. But I was just very angry, and I kind of tried to tell Shane and Justin, I'm like, I'm closer to you guys, like, you know that, and why didn't you let me in? I'm like, I'm more with you guys than I was with her, and you knew that. I told you that. So that's kind of what they were telling me, and they were both looking at me like, I'm sorry. So I was listening to that. I wasn't really taking it too much, but I eventually was just like, okay, guys, yeah, like, I know, just don't do that to me again.
So you end up spending a lot of quality time with Justin, right? Because there's a reward challenge. Shane wins. He takes Taylor and Ronnie to the convenience store. And it's just you and you and Justin back at camp. And I think Justin just kind of turns the camera at some point and just kind of shudders because he's like, this is going to be hard.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that, I don't think it was really hard. We ate some food. We made popcorn. I don't think we were able to finish making the popcorn because of something. We weren't able to finish it, but we tried. And we just kind of talked. I tried not to talk about game because I just had a really emotional, like, 30 minutes. I just was like, I can't right now. I mean, I laid on the mat, just cried for a while. So I wasn't in a space to really talk about that. I just kind of wanted to talk. We talked about like theater, we talked about other stuff, and just kind of hung out really. And I think it wasn't at that point, but it was soon after that I said, hey, I do think that Taylor and Shane are closer than we think. So I was trying to kind of say that. I'm like, I'm surprised he didn't choose us, but he probably chose us because he wants us to stay behind and, top game and to be closer, which is what Shane said afterward that he was trying to do. But I don't necessarily think it was smart for Shane not to take me after making me really mad. I think that he could have saved some face with that, I think.
Well, Shane wins immunity. And let's see, let me check the vote. And you end up casting your vote for Taylor along with Justin. Talk to me through this voting process. Did you think that, what percent chance do you think you were going to be going home?
I honestly really didn't. I did have a hunch. I think I said to Tony at one point, I said, it's probably me. So it's like I had a hunch, but I also didn't expect it either. I thought that all the guys would vote out Taylor. I mean, in my head, I'm just like, there's no other option. I mean, I saw Todd at one point hug Taylor and say, you better win this. So for me, I hear that and I'm like, like, she definitely needs to go. So that made me nervous. So I thought there was no other option besides voting Taylor out at that point since she didn't win immunity.
Michael, were there any options or outs for Sarah at this point?
No, but I do have comments about a little bit earlier. So going back to camp, I'm thinking in my head, this is brilliant TV, but Sarah, don't do this. Don't do this. You're going to blow up your game. And one thing that I really loved about this season of Reelfoot, and I think Amos and Parker and Pete really deserve a lot of credit, is the spacing of the game really allowed character development. So we see this character of Sarah, who's being very chill and under the radar, and then tick, 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 boom, gives us the most dramatic moment of the season. Had she just went back and be like, guys, it's okay, I wanted to get rid of her anyway, she wasn't in my endgame plans, I don't know if Sarah goes the next round. So her outburst, because if I'm Justin and Shane, I'm like, well, she's not going to trust us now because we just blindsided her. So obviously she's the next to go. So the thing is Sarah has already cut off all the people that she could have used, right? Ronnie's not going to go with Sarah. It's just not going to happen. Shane and Justin are linked together. The only out that Sarah has at final 5 is to win immunity. That's it.
So You end up getting voted out in a 3-2. Do you know who voted with you at the time?
At the time, no. I honestly, for a minute, thought it was Ronnie, just because I thought he would be left out of the vote, and I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was the other three. And then I found out after when Taylor got voted out, or yeah, I think that's when I found out about it. Is that Justin actually voted me? Not voted me. I mean, he voted Taylor. He voted with me, and at that moment, I was kind of like, I kind of wish he just voted me. I told him that. I would have rather just been him just vote me than just kind of throw a vote because he wanted to like save face with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a bitter jury member or a bitter player, so I don't go into endgame thinking like, oh, well, you burned me kind of thing.
So it didn't earn him any brownie points doing that.
No, not really.
Um, Walking out of the game and joining the jury, what was kind of going through your head at that time?
Um, well, I actually was. I don't know. I wasn't sad. I was actually like happy in a way, because not happy to get voted out, obviously, but I was kind of like, wow, they got me kind of thing. Oh, wow, I was blindsided. That's never happened before. And then I was just, I was. This game to me has been more about. It has been a lot about the experience and having that experience, and it was a really personal journey for me too, over the game. So coming out of that and being like, holy crap, look what I just did. I just accomplished this. Like, my family didn't think I could necessarily do this, and didn't think I could just be out in the woods. I'm a very cleanly person. Like, I don't like, and I did it, and I was really proud of myself. So it was kind of like this moment of pride, leaving, and that I just got to do it, and that I accomplished it. So it felt good. But I mean, obviously, it sucked. I was voted out.
Michael, what surprised you the most watching Sarah's game from start to finish?
Was surprised how good she was about keeping her who she like how smart she was away from everyone. You know what I mean? Like she one-on-one in confessionals had a real concise plan of what her game was, and I think she lived up to that game. But there comes a point where you gotta like, are we playing to win or are we playing to get fifth place? And I think that's where the downfall was here. But out of most of the cast, Sarah's probably the one that I'm excited to see what happens next with, because, like me, I got in my head and I played the same game as Sarah. I wasn't playing to win. I was playing for the experience, and it's only made me a better player after the fact. And I truly think Sarah has what it takes to one day win a live reality game. But she's just very charismatic. She's not the most over the top personality. She blends in well in the beginning portions of the game, but she's a thinker, and she's smart. It's just, it was timing for her in this game from my perspective.
So, of the 4 players remaining, who did you want to see win initially from, I don't know, first to fourth?
I really wanted to see Taylor win. I thought that out of all of them, I thought she really played the best game. And then it probably would have been, I mean, to me, Justin was my number one, so I was excited for him. But I think after that, I would have wanted Shane and then Justin, just because I felt, from what the information that I had at that moment, I wanted that. But then learning afterward, I'm actually really happy with Justin winning. And so I was actually very, very proud of him and happy, especially hearing and thinking more about how it wasn't, Mike brought up that great point about how he sat us all down and he had us do that with the strengths and weaknesses. And I think, that was amazing that he did that. And I'm like, gonna note that. That was great for him. And it really changed the game. I think if we didn't do that, I don't know if we would have done as well in challenges. I think that really helped us.
So, in the off case, it was a Shane versus Justin. It sounds like you've been very torn with your vote.
I do like to go into Final Tribal with an open mind, because you really never know what someone's game is. I mean, the game is all about perception, of course, but also there's things that you don't know everything. Nobody knows everything in the game. There's always little things that you learn. I feel like I'm learning new things about the game every day still. So there's so much that goes into it. And I think Final Tribal is really where people shine or don't.
Well, what was the convincing factor for you to cast your vote for Justin?
Well, I thought out of the two, you mean out of Ronnie and him?
Yeah, at the Final Tribal Council, Ronnie versus Justin, what convinced you that, what was important for you in your vote for Justin?
I think for Justin, it was, I mean, his Final Tribal, he did a great job. He had a great opening. There was a certain phrase, and obviously now I'm not going to remember exactly, but there was a certain phrase that he said. I was like, yes, he needs to be the winner. But I think out of that, I did feel like from the outsider point of, well, I'm also the outsider and the insider point of view. I felt like Justin played a stronger game. He really proved himself. I mean, he did earn, and usually I wouldn't want to vote for somebody that got voted out of the game, but it was only like a few minutes that he was really out of the game, and he beasted that challenge to get back in. He really earned that, and he played a good game after that. So, there was really no, with that final two, I didn't really have much of a question.
Michael, any other questions?
No, I think Sarah's covered it all.
So
good on my end.
I have a couple of rapid fire fun questions I'd like to throw at you, just to kind of hear like top things for you. So, what was your favorite challenge?
I liked the one with the grappling hooks and the chicken wire one.
What was one person you wish you were able to work with but you didn't?
Carlos. I think Carlos.
Why Carlos?
I think I usually feel comfortable with guys, and I think I could have gotten him to really trust me and be in my back pocket.
Who surprised you the most?
Lydia.
Why Lydia?
Because she was so sick at the beginning. I was like, all right, I don't know what this, and she's so tiny. You don't expect a lot from her. And then she played a phenomenal game. So she really surprised me. But then after hearing all the org she plays, I'm like, does she surprise me? maybe not.
Do you have any favorite camp life story?
Camp life stories. I can't think of anything offhand. I think my favorite thing, and it's not like it's a funny story or anything, it's just like the thing I always think of. The first night we were there, the most beautiful thing I've seen, one of the most beautiful things I've seen is the forest gets lit up with fireflies. And I have fireflies where I'm from, but not a lot. So to see just like thousands of fireflies just light up the woods, it was just amazing. It was beautiful.
What was the lowest moment in the game for you?
Probably that day that I got really when I got really upset. I was mad at everyone, and then I did a confessional because I wanted to do another one. And during that, they gave me a shout out of my friend, just telling me that she was proud of me. And I kind of like walked back, went to the ground, started kind of crying, like pulled it back together, and then just laid on the mat. It's all caught on camera of me just sobbing on the mat and just like letting out so much just emotion and things, just personally, just letting it all out. So it's probably my lowest, but.
What was your highest moment?
Highest moment. Honestly, I think my highest moment was after sumo. That was my highest moment.
Let's see. I was lifting my tongue. I just blanked. If you had to make a move at some other point in the game, what would it have been or when would it have done? You probably thought a lot of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. What would the one thing you wish you had done would have been?
I think one of the things that I could have done, and I think I could have made more connections at the lodge. Honestly,
Very beginning.
I think if I made a couple more connections and maybe made an alliance a little bit earlier, I think that would have changed my game. And
so, like you said, you're open to playing more games in the future. What have your takeaways been from this season of Reelfoot? Like when hopefully you do play again, what do you want to be trying to do in the future? Like,
I think, not always just going with the status quo, maybe taking a couple of risks or thinking more about everything and not just blindly just being like, yes, they're with me kind of thing. Not that I don't want to play loyal, because I do think loyalty is important in the game, but I also believe...
Frank's encouraging words of advice there.
As long as I don't drink the Kool-Aid, all right. Noted.
He is the Kool-Aid. What do you mean?
I mean, because I don't think it's a bad plan, right? Because you really thought you were in that top four and that you were tight with Justin and Amanda. So you, in a sense, you kind of got outplayed by them, which isn't in the world. And so I guess going forward, like what Michael says, it's like really kind of stepping in and saying, I need to win, not simply go further. How can I sculpt my end game more proactively? Exactly.
I think, and this was my first live game, so there's a lot going on. I think now I know kind of what to expect now that I've had the experience. So I think that makes it like, okay, well, I know what to expect all of these things with the survival and like just that sort of component, where now I can actually go in with more of a, all right, let's get the wheels churning. Let's make this happen.
I actually have a hypothetical. So let's say that Final Four makes it to the Final Four. What does Sarah do in that situation? Who do you take to the end? Who do you think you can beat?
I think at that moment, I mean, in the moment, I think now I don't think I would have beaten any of them, but I think in that moment I would have wanted Justin and Shane in that moment. But I don't think I necessarily would have beaten anything. I think I would have gotten to Final Tribal, and I think I could have done well, and I think I would have made some people go, "Oh, I didn't think about that in that way," and had people question it. But I don't necessarily think I would have won. Looking back on it now.
Sarah, is there anything else about your game that you want to talk about or bring up?
Nothing I can think of. No, I think we covered quite a bit.
Michael, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm really appreciative that you had me here, and this was great to see Sarah. I think we covered it all.
Hey, so Michael, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come join me on this podcast. Michael will be joining me in the future for one more podcast with Lydia this coming Sunday at noon. Sarah, I want to say thank you as well. I've noticed you've been watching their podcast, and I've enjoyed hearing your thoughts as everyone else has been talking about their game. And I was really excited to be able to hear your game as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, so for those of you who are listening right now, don't worry. There's a lot more Reelfoot content to come. Coming up this Saturday, we'll be talking to the one, the only Frank Goodpaster at 2 o'clock. On Sunday, there's Lydia at noon and Carlos at 2:30. And then next week, we have Chris at 4:30 on Tuesday and Sherry at 5 p.m. on that Thursday. So we still have a lot more to come. And you know, if Reelfoot's just not enough and you need more live reality and content, there's a lot of other stuff happening. Survival Challenge 2021 is ongoing. They just finished their first full day of reward challenges and Broken the Tribe. So you can go to that Facebook page to catch the videos there. And there's probably a lot of other content happening out on this thing. There's like more podcasts than I can keep track of. So again, Michael, especially Sarah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Stephen. Bye, Sarah.
Bye.
I'm going to click that end button.